Hello, all you heroes, villains, and innocent bystanders. Welcome to another episode of An Angel and Her Unicorn, where we'll be spoiling the books for the week with our amazing opinions. I think our opinions. I'm Alan the Unicorn, and with me is JD.
Hi.
I'm going to ask his mom if we can get him on a more regular basis.
No.
She's going to say no. So, there was a lot of number ones that came out this week.
Yes. All of my picks are number ones this week. So.
I think it's kind of exciting. A couple of the ones that I've got are number ones. So normally I'm stuck with my same pull list, but there's actually been quite a few books coming out lately. So since we're getting ready to be in the holidays, we're going to be busy. So let's go ahead and get to it so that way we don't waste everybody's time. But we will be spoiling them for the week. And eventually I'll have the times below in the description.
Spoiler warning.
Spoilers. I know last week I forgot to say spoilers, so I had to put it in the description. All right, James, I'll let you go first. I think I went first last time, so.
Okay. My first pick this week is the book called Die by... it's written by Kieran Gillen and drawn by Stephanie Hans. And it's from Image Comics. Not to be confused with Die, also by Image Comics.
Well, it's not even the right word. It's not even the right die. It's a...
Yeah, this is die as in dice, not die as in...
coloring clothing, or die as in death.
Yes. So, the premise of this book, it starts with a group of friends. It sounds like that they've been loose friends for a while, but they haven't really gamed together much, and some of them not at all. They kind of introduce all the friends, and then they are going to start this game, and then it flashes to 2 years later, and you get... the book leads you to believe that they disappeared. They reappeared on a road 2 years later, and none of them will talk about what happened to them. And not of 6 of them that left, only 5 came back.
And one of them is missing an arm. The girl's missing an arm.
I'm sorry. Yes, one of them is short an arm, and and then the book jumps another 25 years ahead, and they're all older, and they still won't talk about what happened to them. There's even certain words that they can't bring themselves to say, and one of them gets a present at a birthday party of one of the dice from the game, and he gets everybody back together, and they go back into the world that you find out that's where they went for the 2 years. And then at the end of the book, they meet the 6th member of the party who they were just going to rescue him, or they thought he might be dead. They find out he's alive. They're like, we're going to rescue you and take you back. And he's like, well, no, we've got a quest to complete. And that's how the first book ends.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was a slight bit hard to follow. It wasn't terribly hard to follow, because you'd be a little confused, and 2 or 3 pages into the book, then you wouldn't be confused anymore. They would explain it. So they didn't spoon feed it to you, but I got where they were going.
I feel like that was my problem with the book, is it wasn't like, there wasn't a very clear, concise, I don't know if it's the dialogue that they use or how they use, because they use like a first person, like there's one character that they have that's kind of like his point of view, talk about how they, he knows everybody, and they all get their little secret die, because the one guy that goes missing is the one that assigns them all. He gives them all their whatever specific die they are to use for their character, and kind of gives them their person. But like, it got confusing because like it's like they don't explain it, but then you kind of extrapolate and kind of you think it's this way, but sometimes I'm not even sure it was that way.
Yeah.
And so it was.
But the biggest thing, I enjoyed reading it, and I want to read more.
I do think I'm going to pick up the next issue, or next few issues, because it is something that looks like it can go. It has a good premise. I just don't know if this was the best number one I've ever read. Like,
No.
because I feel like it kind of set things up, but it kind of didn't.
I want to read more. There have been number ones that I've read. I'm like, where is number two? Why is it not in my hand?
Yeah.
Ship it to me overnight, right now.
This is not
immediately. This is not that book.
No, but I didn't go.
But I enjoyed it.
I'm not going to ever read this book again.
Right.
Because it was, I mean, like, it was interesting because they did kind of, it was almost like a mystery / fantasy. I think also another thing that, not about the plot, but the actual book itself, the art, I don't feel like it lent itself to telling the story well, because it had a very almost painted feel, and the painted feel almost, it was very hard to tell who was what. Like, the characters didn't look very concise. I wasn't for sure who I was looking at. And with the confusing dialogue, I think that's what also made it more confusing, is I couldn't identify a character by their tone of writing, or with
another
the
thing
visuals.
was they identified characters by name, and then they used nicknames.
Yes.
And I did find myself, I thought that was the guy that was missing.
Yes.
Oh no, he was.
Yeah.
Like the person that was missing's nickname is Soul or Saul or
Solomon
and I thought the main character's name. I thought he was the one that was missing. Is he with them? And then I'm counting people. No, there's still just 5 of them.
I was the
showed
same
back
way.
up yet. So,
and I don't know if they did that on purpose, like if that's kind of the mystery of the book, or if that's just kind of because I feel like we are doing a book club and we're reading something similar, or the same writer we're reading one of his other works. And I feel the same way about that book, though. I feel like it's just the way he writes. It's just, it doesn't quite, there's no explanation, but there is. And so a lot of it is you kind of, you get the feeling. And so I had a hard time with this issue, but I'm like you. It wasn't hard enough for me to be like, I'll never pick this up again.
But a lot of mysterious books and TV shows and movies, they don't explain anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this book explained enough that I felt like explanations are coming. I don't like the books where we're going to explain everything in the very last book 3 years from now. Well, I won't be there.
So, what did you think about the big reveal at the end? So, at the end of the book, they go back and they see the guy that's been missing. But the reason why they came back was because they got his dye, the dye he was assigned, in the mail and had blood on it. That's why they thought he was dead. And so when they come back, he takes the dye and puts it in his eye socket.
From the art, I wasn't entirely certain that that's what had happened. I thought maybe that was what happened. So
yes,
having you confirm it. So again, with the art, it wasn't entirely clear that that was what he did. So,
but I did feel like that was kind of and I don't know how, again, obviously we don't know how the book's gonna go, but I do feel like that was kind of a quick reveal. Like, I would have liked that nugget to kind of wait maybe until issue 2. They could have brought him back. I wouldn't have mind them coming into the new realm and like kind of like maybe even like if they find a character, like some kind of weird character that they beat up, and then he says no, he's still alive. Like, I think that would have been a better ending than what they kind of just throw all their cards into one issue. So I was hoping the pacing would be a little bit different. Not that it was bad enough for me to not read it, but there was a couple things that it wasn't a perfect book, which is what I was kind of hoping. This, after reading like the premise of it and stuff, it really has potential, and so I really wanted to be good. So on a scale, what would you give it?
I'd give it a 3, possibly 3.5.
I would give it a 3. I'd probably give it a 4 if the art was better. If I could understand it a little bit better, I think I would have gave it a higher rating, just because the premise is really exciting.
I will definitely at least read the next one and probably more from this.
I'm hoping to get the first 6 or the first arc at least and see how it is. But yeah, I actually thought it was kind of interesting. So it's a new book, and those are always fun because you don't have all the horrible history to sit behind. So. All right, so I'm going to start off with another heavy book, DC's Doomsday Clock. This is number 8 of 12. Jeff Johns is the writer and Gary Frank is the artist. I can officially say I'm not smart enough to read this book. I don't understand some of the things. I feel so confused of where it's taking place. I really thought the premise of the whole series was to bring the Watchmen into this, and half the time the Watchmen aren't even in it. I no idea. This, I mean, the story itself was kind of interesting.
You're 8 issues of 12 in, and still when does this start?
I know. I'm like, what are we doing? What happened? There was that whole Batman thing, and now we're back. I mean, I guess he's setting things up for something better later on, but I mean...
There's not a lot of later on left.
No, I don't even know, what to... So in this issue, it's more of a Superman story. Superman, Firestorm is in Russia, and he accidentally turns all these people into glass, which he's not supposed to be able to affect organic matter. So that was a big thing. He was like, it's an accident. So he takes off, and he escapes from Russia, and... Russia's trying to make it out to be that America is trying to invade them. And so Superman goes and is trying to find Firestorm because he knows that, he's trying to help him. He goes to Kodarak? How do you say it? Korak? There we go. That sounds pretty good. Korak?
The Middle Eastern country that Black Adam
has. Yeah. So he goes to see him, and Black Adam's like, I don't have him, but if he ever comes, he's welcome. Lois Lane is trying to figure something out. They bring in the Justice Society. I think my other hard part about this is, I don't know where this fits into the timeline. Is this an Elseworld book where they're not going to fit into the timeline? Or is this supposed to be, in DC's past? With the whole rebirth thing?
Because the Justice Society hasn't really shown its face in the rebirth stuff yet, have they?
No, and that's, they have some characters and stuff that are from there, but nothing really like Dr. Fate and the Flash and Spectre and all them, but so I get really confused on where the timeline is at. Also, I think that's where I have a hard time, is I'm not quite sure where this happens, because they bring in they'll bring in characters, but it's all their old costumes, and I'm just I thought this was supposed to be more of a recent thing where they're bringing them, but I get a little lost. So anyway, Superman finds Firestorm, and he's got a little boy, and he's trying to change him back into human, and he finally accomplishes it. And so Superman flies into Russia to try to be like, hey, Firestorm, it was an accident. He just wants to kind of help and fix everybody. And Russia's like, no, you guys are trying to kill us. And then I'm assuming it's kind of almost a setup. Firestorm shows up with the boy alive, and they start shooting at him, and then they start hitting the people made of glass. And so then Firestorm tries to stop them from killing the people with glass. It's just, anyways, lots of miscommunication. It's like a Breaking Bad episode. Lots and lots of miscommunication. The tank tries to stop Superman, or stop Firestorm, but inadvertently runs over somebody made out of glass. So Superman goes and stops the tank because he's trying to save the people from being shattered. And then all of a sudden, Batman's trying to get him out, and Firestorm goes Nova, but he says it's not Firestorm. Batman does. So I'm betting that it's probably
Dr. Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan. That's where he arrives. But
and the very last thing you see, Ozymandias.
Is Ozymandias, who probably set the whole thing up. I just don't even know what to say about this book. I really want to like it, Not that I was smart enough to understand all of the original Watchmen series. I just feel like I don't have the um, metaphor capabilities to understand it. I'm like, I don't know, like, but I still liked it. Like, I still felt like the story was straightforward enough that I understood, the story. But I think there was a lot of underlying things that obviously Alan Moore's just something wrong with that man. There's something in his head that is beyond what I will ever be. So I mean, I'm glad that he is more cerebral than I am. But I feel like Jeff Johns is trying to be him, and in trying to be him, it's not quite working because I don't think it quite gets there. Because it's kind of almost like it's almost like a Diet Coke. This is almost Diet Coke. Instead of being Alan Moore, it's like Alan Moore Light. But
Jeff Johns does like to play the long game. I mean, he set things up in Green Lantern that didn't pay off for years. I don't know that we have years.
I know you got a couple more issues. And I think that's I mean, I really want it to be good, and Gary Frank's art is, I mean, I can't say enough amazing things about his art. His art is just so great. I loved him when he did Superman, and he brought in the Legion of Superheroes and all that. His art is so cool, and it's just gotten better because I remember his old art was a lot of times you couldn't really tell some of the characters apart because they looked very similar. But even like Supreme Powers, and then he did Superman, and now this book. I mean, his characters are really, really. He's just really good, and I can see why it takes him so long to get done with the book. I was like, because his detail is insane, but I still just don't get it. I'm like, why is it a book? Where are the Watchmen? Like, you've only shown us like 2 Watchmen. There's where's the rest of everybody? Like, I don't know. I just want it to be better than what it is for me. What do you think? Do you enjoy it? Do you understand it better than I do? Please say yes.
Not really.
No? Okay. So maybe once it's done I'll understand it more. But until then, I give it probably a 2 out of 5. I would say 3 out of 5 just because I really like Gary Frank, and I would probably collect it just for his art. So 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. What do you think?
I can get on board with
Did you get to read this issue?
Not yet.
Good luck. I mean, hopefully, maybe you'll see something I didn't. So, all right, what's your next pick?
My next pick is Martian Manhunter.
I know this is a good one.
And it is by Steve Orlando and Riley Rossmo. I like Martian Manhunter, the character. I don't think he gets enough respect in the DC universe. I mean, for just his power set, he's as strong as Superman. He can fly, and he's a telepath, and he's a shapeshifter, and he can alter his density like the Vision.
And invisible.
And go invisible. I mean, this...
But he's scared of a match, so his weakness is a little bit more prevalent.
But, I wanted to like this, but I really didn't. So the synopsis, it's he's in his John Jones character, who's a detective, and he goes to a grisly murder scene, and he goes and uses his Martian powers while he's on the scene trying to get clues that humans don't have access to, and he detects something Martian. I wasn't entirely certain what that was. I don't know if I have not read another book where they've explained more, or if this is just there's Martian foam.
Yes,
fright foam. I don't know what that is.
I think that was supposed to be more of a, because he's, psychically looking for imprints to see. And I think the fright foam is more like trauma that was happened in there. And then that's kind of overwhelming emotion, I would assume. So that's what I'm thinking. It is like maybe they were scared, and like that's an overwhelming emotion that leaves this.
But I got the
thing.
feeling that I was supposed to know what fright foam was, and I don't. So,
Jesus,
you know,
you don't?
fright foam.
Yeah.
How
they have it down at Costco, 2 for $1.
You went to kindergarten, right? Yeah. You don't know what fright foam is? Were you out that day? So
must have been a sub. There was a sub.
So
that
then
day.
he starts having, or they start showing flashbacks to his time on Mars, and
there's an odd alien sex scene.
Well, and they're insinuating that he was not always a good guy, and that the Manhunter part is not the upright,
more like a dirty
occupation that we were always led to believe it was.
Like almost like a thug cop.
And then he comes home and he has an awkward,
really uncomfortable sex scene
with his wife, and then she's talking about, since they're telepaths, when they share everything, but he's got some blocked off parts. And he says he's just protecting her from his work.
From the job, yeah.
And so then the flashback ends, and he's in the car with his human partner, and he has a hallucination and wrecks the car, and the car catches on fire, and fire bad.
Yep.
And the partner sees him
as like a gooey Martian.
So, like I said, I wanted to like this book. So far, I didn't. The art was not my cup of tea. And I was confused a lot of the book, the fright foam thing. I guess I was out that day. And so
I am completely on the other end of the spectrum. I loved this book. Like, I thought the story was really interesting. Like, it was a different twist, which is, I think, what they were trying to do, was make it a different twist, like a different Martian Manhunter. Because I think that is one thing with the Martian Manhunter is, even though he has the same power set, like, his character is almost a little boring. I mean, they have one angle, which is, like, the death of the Martians, and that's his angle, is, like, he's always lamenting his family, he's always alone, and that's kind of what they've rested on for a long period of time. And so I feel like this is almost a different aspect of that, and they're bringing in more stuff from him, which I kind of like. But I do feel like it doesn't, I think the hard part is it doesn't quite fit into the regular, like, if you read Justice League, it doesn't quite fit into that Martian Manhunter, because this one seems a little bit more like unsure of himself. It's like he's got the dirty cop side where he's got a lot of baggage, which I think is what they're kind of bringing in.
If they had introduced a new character with all these problems, but
I don't disagree
Martian
with that.
Manhunter has, a 40, 50, 60-year history in the DC Universe as a straight-up paragon of virtue.
Right.
And all of a sudden, he's got to pass as a dirty cop. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's where I can totally understand that. I didn't follow Martian all the time, like, unless he was in the Justice League. So I never read his old books. I never read anything like that. So I don't feel like I have that baggage with me. So I think that's why maybe I enjoyed it a little bit more. But I also loved the art. Like, it was this cartoony, kind of fun style. I love the, like, it's almost a boxy. It reminded me a lot of the old Justice League cartoon with Bruce Timms that did the art, and like.
So I didn't get that. I love Bruce Timm's art, and the fact that it's simpler, but this just was not for me.
I loved it. He's got that square jaw, and then his partner's got that weird ass hair. Yeah. And then all the Martians are weird. I think that was the other thing that threw me off, though, that I was just like, even though I don't read this book or read this character, like, the Martians are supposed to be the Martians, but on this planet that they've got him on, there's, like, a bunch of different types of either, like, they don't all look like, And
like
the old
Mars was an interstellar hub.
Yeah, like there's all these kind of different species of Martians, which is kind of interesting to see.
Or other alien races that have left Earth alone for the however many 100,000 years that people have been here.
And so that
6,000 years for some of us.
God, I feel every year that. So I really liked it though. I think it's kind of a fun new direction, but I definitely can see if I can see where you could have hangups. But for me, I felt it was like a fun read. It was definitely a different direction for the character, which I'm not a solo person. I don't like solo books. I like team books, and so I was actually surprised that I did enjoy it. But I also love the art. I actually love the art so much that I went back and bought all of the artists' old books to look through his stuff and see. I'll read all those. So that's
why they publish multiple books every month.
So rating wise, what would you give it?
I think I would just give this one a 2. I will probably give the second book a chance, but
there's more from the second book. You forget it.
They don't have a lot of leeway with me. They better
get it together.
Yeah, they better
have one more issue.
Exactly.
I will probably stick with it for a couple of issues. I'm really excited about it. I'm actually surprised, so I'm actually going to go back. I downloaded it digitally, but I'll probably go back and try to find number 1 in hard copy because I actually really did enjoy it. So I would give it a 4 out of 5. I love that we disagree. I think this is the first time in the history that we have not, me and Jenny always agreed. I have to say this is fun, James. I'm glad that we disagreed on this one. But I think I would really love to hear what other people think. If it's your cup of tea or if you didn't think it was that way, it would be a fun one to see what everybody thinks about it and see where it goes. So, all right. I'm going to do Holiday Special, the Merry X-Men Holiday Special. It is just a one-shot. There is I think the premise is supposed to go over the 24 days of Christmas. And each day is a different story. So they have multiple writers and multiple artists in here. So each page is a little bit different. There's one underlying story with Jubilee and Shogo. They have she gets kidnapped, and throughout the book she gets kidnapped, and they show her in the mall. And she's fighting different things, like either she's running from Santa Claus dressed X-Men and superheroes, or she's running from death traps. But she's come to find out at the very end that she's been kidnapped and trapped by Arcade. And Arcade made them a killing mall. And they're like, we just wanted a real mall. Why did you do this? And he's like, oh, I only make killing malls. he's like, just imagine the profit margin. 70% of your clientele will get out and make it out alive because Jubilee can make it. Anybody can make it. And so that was kind of funny. But it's sporadic, so it's not like one big long story. It's like the first day, December 1st, they talk about she gets kidnapped, and then you don't see her for another couple pages, and then you see her in the mall. So that was kind of a funny little quirky thing. But then it talks about Kitty Pryde doing Hanukkah. There's a little girl playing with Jean Grey and Deadpool dolls, and so but it's from Jean Grey and Deadpool, and they're doing things, and they're like, wait, we don't even like each other. Why are we doing this? And then it'll start another scenario where they're in another room, and they're like, this is not how it goes. And then at the end, it's this little girl playing with dolls, and so I thought it was really cute. And then a little one with the Wolverine. So there's various little stories in here, which are kind of cute. I thought it was kind of fun. I mean, it's a one-shot holiday special. It was entertaining. I think it would be a cute one. If
you could see a lot of different up-and-coming artists' works. So you pick out who you like. And there's one that looked very familiar. Art is with her hair looks sort of like the Martian Manhunter.
I was thinking he looked more like he did X-Men a couple times ago. I can't even think of his name off the top of my head. But yeah, it's just a quirky art. There's and there's different characters which I think are fun. So sometimes you see a little character like Glob Glob gets a chair, and it shows him tacking out mistletoe, and he gets a chair, and he just sits under the mistletoe waiting for somebody to show up. There's a Gabby story with Gabby. She gets a Secret Santa gift and trying to figure out who the Secret Santa is. Gabby cracks me up. I really want to go back and read X-23 just for her. And there's a Domino story where like the guy's like a human trafficker, and so she's like, being a mercenary is hard. Da 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 da. There's always moral quandaries, and she goes, I do it for the money and the job, and then she just blows this guy away, and she goes, that's Merry Christmas. It's like she kills this human trafficker just for like for free. Then there's like a little story about a cannonball and his family. It's just a fun read. And nothing really too hot. I mean, like, don't get it thinking it's going to be a heavy story or anything that's going to, like, move worlds. It was just cute. I'd give it probably a 3 out of 5. Nothing serious. Just a middle of the road, kind of fun book. If you're an X-Men fan, you may enjoy them. And if you're not, it probably won't be worth your time. But, did you read?
I did not.
Okay. All right. What's your last one?
So my last one is Self-Made from Image Comics. It's by Matt Groom and drawn by Eduardo Ferragato. If I mispronounced anybody's name, I apologize.
Please leave the enunciations in the comments, and we'll try to get it better.
It starts as a kind of a sword and sorcery type book. There's a group of people. It insinuates that there's been peace upon the kingdom for a long time, but the peace is about to end, and this group of warriors are going to defend the kingdom from an onslaught. And then it's a little confusing, but you think you jump to they've been onslaughted. Unslaughtinated. And it didn't go so well for them.
They got more slaughtered than on.
Yeah. And one of the characters from early on is one of the last survivors. She meets a noble who's going to take her to fight the bad guy that was in charge of the onslaught and try to stop him. Then it starts to get a little weird. They're going to go borrow a dragon from this other kingdom to travel faster.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
If I could fucking borrow a dragon, I'd totally borrow a dragon.
But they go in. The girl asks, let me talk to these people. They're proud people. I understand them. And we'll get the dragon. And the prince is like, I'm the prince and they're going to do what I tell them to do. And they go in and he tells them what to do. And the dragon people kill them all. Well, then they're back outside the original group, and she's like, why don't I understand these people? Why don't you let me go? It's like it reloaded, and she's like, why don't you let me talk to these people? I understand these people. And the prince is like, okay, but if it doesn't work, we're doing it my way. And she gets the dragon, and they fly off, and you're like, what just happened? So
deja vu.
Then so they go and find the bad guy, and there's this ultimate magic weapon that he's the bad guy's trying to get the ultimate magic weapon to further his aims. The noble is trying to get it to lock the bad guy away for another 1,000 years, so we don't have to deal with him. So
fairly standard.
Yeah. So they stop the bad guy. They kill him. He says, oh, this was the power to fix everything finally. Well, then they're back outside the room going in to stop the bad guy again. And this just keeps repeating with different endings. It keeps going over and over. And so then at the end, you find out that it was not a sword and sorcery, that it's, spoiler warning, they're in the future and all these people are tied into a video game.
Ooh.
And that it was people, when they failed, they were
Starting
relaunching
over.
from a previous save point.
Second life. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the researchers are talking about that the girl character was doing things she wasn't supposed to do. And one of the researchers is like, oh, okay, well, she's glitchy. We need to just dump her. And the other character's like, we need to figure out why she's acting this way. And so that's going to...
Yeah, that's going to bite him in the butt.
So when it started time jumping, I figured out, what was happening, but not why. It went ahead and explained why at the end. I really liked this, especially after I read it and knew the shtick and went back and reread it.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't just spell it out for you at first, but it was easier to read the second time through knowing the secret thing. But I really enjoyed this one.
It looked really good. What'd you think about the art?
The art was good. It wasn't stellar, but it was it was very good.
Worked with the book.
Yeah. And
really
I
nice.
liked it. I'd give it a 4 horns.
Nice. I like it.
And I will definitely check it out again.
I think I'm going to have to download it. That sounds kind of fun. There's one I got this week called Freeze, and it's supposed to be about this.
That was going to be the next one that I was going to read, but
Did you read it?
I ran out of time.
Yeah, I did. I did too. I'm looking. I'm hoping the premise sounds really fun, but I haven't had a chance to read it. I've read some other stuff that I didn't.
Image is really cranking them out lately, and for the most part, they're doing really good stuff. It's a lot of creator-driven, a lot of limited series, so it's not...
Which I think is what...
I kind of like that.
Yes.
You don't have to sign on for a 20-year crawl.
Well, even if you did, I feel like a lot of times when it's creator-owned, they don't always have stories made out for that. Like, they need time to collect them and get them together.
If it just worked, then
Yeah.
they shut it down and move on to their next idea. If it works, then they
have more to go. Yeah.
They write the next chapter, and so
for sure. So the last one I'm going to do is Shazam #1. So this is kind of a relaunch. Jeff Jones did this one also, and the artist was Dale Inglesham and Mayo Neato Sen, like quotation marks Sen S-E-N. So it's 2 different stories. The first story is almost a little bit of an origin story, but not quite. Like they kind of recap how Shazam came about. Billy Batson finds
with
the
movie
cave.
coming out, I
Yeah.
can see that reintroduce people to the character.
Yeah, it's like a quick thing. It's not like they don't take the whole book to reintroduce everything. It's kind of like the first 2 pages is kind of like, he found the wizard. Wizard said, "I'm gonna die. Here's my magic. Fix things." So then it cuts to him. They're all in this museum. The museum ends up getting robbed, and so they have it. It's almost like they told the history, but then they jumped right into like everything already being established and everybody understanding things. So that was if I was a new reader, I would be a little confused. But knowing some of these things that it didn't bother me at all. But I think if you were a new reader, it would be really confusing because next thing you know, you have Shazam, but then it brings in all the cast of the supporting characters. So in the old
there
books,
were a ton of them.
yes, like there was like
everyone
all 5 of the
that
kids.
Billy Batson ever met.
Oh my god!
At some point,
I know, like
got the powers of the Shazam family.
It's almost like herpes, man. I'm like, he like infected his whole entire family. Gross. But like, so it's got like the whole Shazam family. It's got Mary Marvel. It's got the faster one, the technology one, the strong one. The only one was not who was the blue? It wasn't Billy Batson. It was
Captain Marvel Jr.
Who was Captain Marvel Jr. though?
I can't
What was his
remember.
regular name? Anyways, he was not in it. I didn't see him. So they they stop the robbery, then they all go back, and it's kind of this big, funny thing, like, hey, there was a robbery, and then they go to fix the their kind of magic cave with all the chairs and the Shazam magic, and they find this hall that wasn't always there. They're like, wait, where did this hall come from? And then they find this train station, and the train station has this giant map, and it says the Magic Lands. So I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna go, and probably each one of them is gonna have
an adventure.
Yeah, or not rule over, but maybe watch over this particular land, because it does kind of seem like there's like emblems that may represent each of their kind of specialties, like the computer and the speed and the rainbow.
The original Shazam, each letter stood for a god or a. They changed it over the years. Right.
So this is something similar. They're saying that there was each one of the gods before it ruled over, like had a chair, and they were all part of the greater purpose. And Shazam was the last one that survived. And so when he passed it on, so I think this is what they're going to do is kind of split things and give each one of them kind of rule over their own magic land-ish kind of. I think that's what they're going to. So I'm going to pick up issue 2 because it was kind of interesting. But then there's a second story in the end, and it's kind of a more of a light kiddie story. Not that this one was super heavy. But anyways, at the end of the first story, Billy Batson's dad shows up. He's like, I'm here.
And he was an orphan in
right
in the original.
Well, and that's the thing is like I don't think it's his dad because he looks like Shazam. Like Billy Batson's dad looks like Shazam, which I know Billy Batson or Shazam is supposed to be Billy Batson kind of grown up ish, but I mean like yeah, it's kind of creepy. So the other one is kind of how Mary became a orphan. How she ran away. Her parents were abusive, and she ran away. Somebody found her, put her, and she comes to the home of her family. And
I don't know that the original thing that she left an abusive home. That'd probably be a little dark for the 40s.
That's true. I don't know where she. I can't remember. I don't remember her origin exactly.
I think she was an orphan, but I doubt that
she was. Her family was abusive.
I don't see that happening in the 40s or the 50s.
This is true. Especially for a girl character. Probably that'd be too dark.
I mean, it happened in the world. They just wouldn't have written about it.
No, wouldn't have sold books. But they have like a little fun adventure. It shows that, it shows her how she kind of became, saved a bunny from the lab. And then it goes to, they activate their powers to go help Billy. They're a little bit more grown up. They activate their powers to go help Billy, but all of a sudden the rabbit that they saved gets magical powers too, and so he flies out the window with them.
Magic bunny!
I know, I'm so excited. I'm like, magical rabbit! I'm in. Like, you should have started, lead with that. You should always lead. Yeah, you should always lead with the magical rabbit. Magical animals, period, always fun. But it was cute. It was an interesting kind of start. I'm not quite sure if it is the best number one, but it was, it was a fun read. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5, probably a 4 out of 5, actually, just because the art was really entertaining. The story was had some interesting things, some kind of old mixed with new, and so I'm interested to see where it's going to go. So I enjoyed it. I don't know if everybody's going to enjoy it. It is a very different take on things. I don't know.
Some people like characters being revamped, and some people quit messing with my childhood heroes.
Yeah, and I can see that. And this one kind of has like a mixture of both. And it's almost like they jumped into the middle of a story, so I don't know how that's going to take, for a number one for people that are just coming into the character. I don't know if that recap will be enough just to be able to jump right into the story, but we'll see. I hope. The premise looks kind of sound. So I'm interested to see if the magical bunny comes back up. Please bring in the magical bunny. Yeah. Please. So, yeah. So did you get to read anything else for the week?
That That's all I have for the week.
That's all you had? My pull list was rather big. That's what she said. But I didn't get to read them all, just because of the holidays, all the parties and things. I'm very, very popular. I'm a very popular person. I'm really not. But it just so happens that this weekend was really busy.
So many parties.
There's birthdays.
So many people.
so many things. I don't know how I can go on.
Many.
So I didn't get to read everything, but I had a couple books on my list that I West Coast Avengers, I'm kind of in the middle of that, but I've really liked it in the past, so that's been an entertaining one. I think they're still going to, just from reading half of that one, they're going to stick with that little kind of humor-ish, which I was hoping they wouldn't. I'd hope they'd get a little serious, but I don't think it's going to happen.
It's West Coast Avengers.
I know, but the group they have could be so good. Like, they have
the West
humor.
Coast
Oh,
Avengers.
shut up, James. James may not be back in 2 weeks. X-Men, The Exterminated. I haven't read it yet. It's supposed to be about Cable, like how Cable's dead, kind of them going on. The Wicked and Divine. Man, that's a beautiful art. The
Isn't
art
that
is
also
beautiful.
Kieran Gillian?
No, this one's Gillen McKelvey.
Oh, okay.
Or Gillen and... Yeah, no, you're right. Kieran and McGillen... Kieran... yes. The same guy, Kieran Gillen, and then this one is Steve McGilvey. McKelvey? Yes, but it's the same guy. Art is stunning in here. So good. But yet again, it's written so weird, and you're just like... Every time you think you got a handle on stuff, you're just like, I got this. I don't got this. Like, it's just like the whole time. I'm just like, damn it. Every time I think where the book is going, I have no idea. Like, it's just like, oh, I really want to know. And then the Justice League. I probably won't read this for a long time.
It makes him sad.
They just destroy. I mean, it's book 13, and I just want to burn it. But I have issues. Kick-Ass, I did get to read. This one actually wasn't that bad. It was kind of going on a downhill slide. This one almost picked it up a little bit. I really liked the flow of it. The book or the story was kind of neat. I would give this one almost a 4 out of 5 unicorn horns just because I've been so down on the book lately, and so I'm kind of glad that they brought it back up to something kind of interesting. I'm interested to see they're going in a direction, which is kind of neat. Star Wars. I don't mind this book. If I didn't read it, I don't think I'd be missing anything. It's just a bunch of filler, which is fine. But the characters, I mean, like the art's really good. They look just like, the characters, which is kind of crazy. But it's okay. It was fun. This story's kind of fun. I'd give it probably a 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. Star Wars fan. If you're a huge Star Wars fan, I would think you would enjoy this. Don't you think? And then I did Uncanny X-Men, which I'm really liking the storyline. Even though it's coming out every week, I'm like, they've laid down some things. They've kind of they pushed the envelope with some things that are kind of a little awkward. The 4 horsemen of peace or whatever it is. It's kind of hokey, but the other stuff is really cool. Like Legion putting have you read this yet? So Legion's been putting his personalities into Jamie Maddox. He makes him make clones, and then he puts one of his personalities in his clone so that he could be sane. I was like, that's genius. So that was I was like, that's pretty cool. So I'm actually kind of enjoying this series, but this is the weekly book, which I think the art was really good in this one. So yeah.
Other books that came out this week that I picked up: Immortal Hulk and Doctor Strange.
Is Immortal Hulk? Is it She-Hulk anymore, or is it?
No, it's
by Bruce Banner again.
Bruce Banner Hulk, but it's more of a horror type motif. Batman came out this week.
Nightwing came out this week. I haven't had a chance to read it either.
Trying to think of what else. Green Arrow. Oh, and the new Green Lanterns #2 came out this week.
Did you get to read the first one yet?
Not yet.
I'm curious to see how that one goes. Like, I've read they have the little magazine, the DC Nation magazine. I read the first one. I was like,
So
it's not Martian Manhunter. So, anyways, that's our books for the week. We hope you enjoyed our opinions, and if not, please tell us why. And we'd love to hear what you think or what you're reading. If there's something that we're not reading, I'd love to try new things and see if I enjoy it. Until then, I hope you have a great holiday and your pull list is full. Bye. Bye.